What is going on, YouTube fam? Thank you for clicking on today's video. As y'all know, I'm a pretty big NBA fan. That's all I really react to on my channel, and I'm trying to kind of expand from that. So I've reacted to, some Ronaldo, some Ronaldinho, different soccer players, but I don't really know too much about the game of soccer in general, to be honest. So we're learning about that exactly in today's video. Soccer explained for Americans, man. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and let's get right into the video. But the quote is, I hate watching soccer. They have to bring the stretcher out at least 6 times a game.
So I've been wanting to start following soccer for a while now, but as an American, I always found it complicated. Not like how they play. Most 3-year-olds can kind of understand more or less how it works. I just mean how everything kind of works in Europe. I would follow the World Cup, and I'd root for the United States if they
That's all I really
it.
know.
And then I'd root for Iceland because clearly they've all been practicing that clapping, and they're really good at it. But that only happens once every 4 years. So I turn on my TV, and it would be like a random game, like Parma versus Bologna. And at first I'd make sure that I wasn't watching the Food Network, but then I had no frame of reference for this game. Like, are these teams good? Is this a big game?
Fair.
Which one of these guys is Pele?
I have no idea. Know.
And I had all these other questions. Why are teams getting kicked out of leagues? Why are they all rolling around on the ground so much? How are guys getting traded to different countries? And why does everybody in the stands?
I never really thought about it. They get traded to different countries to play in. Huh.
Have a scarf.
I don't know.
So a few months ago, I tried to start figuring it all out. And I started watching some matches. That's the first thing. They aren't soccer games. They are football matches. And I bought FIFA for my
Football
Xbox.
matches,
And I bought a scarf and a vuvuzela because that's like the rules or something. So anyway, this is all the info that I wish I'd known a year ago. This is my crash course of translating soccer into American.
Perfect.
I'm going to assume that you kind of know the rules. The biggest difference between American sports is how offsides works and the clock. Lots of people get upset about the clock.
Offsides, I assume it's just kind of like out of bounds, right?
It goes up instead of down. Get over yourself. It doesn't really matter. Americans also get mad because the clock doesn't stop and games pretty much end whenever the ref feels like it.
Oh.
And you actually adjust to this pretty quickly.
You're telling me whenever they have to change the ball, the clock doesn't stop? It's kind of like football?
Game's an hour
American
and a half long.
Football?
You'll have your chances to score. And if you can't score, then it's not the clock's fault. Some people, and when I say people, I'm
that's kind of weird.
referring both to discussions I've had with other Americans as well as like myself 6 years ago. So people think soccer is too slow. And when Americans look at a soccer...
Oh my goodness, bro. Do not get me started on the sport of soccer being slow. I remember I was in like middle school, 7th grade, back of the class. And this one kid who played soccer, he's like, bro, we had such a good game last night. It tied 0-0. How can anyone watch an hour plus of dudes kicking balls with their feet for an hour, not a single point gets made? Matter of fact, let's say the score turns out to be 2-1. You're telling me someone only scored every 20 minutes? I don't know. To me, that just kind of seems lame, and I don't really see the engagement in a sport like this, but hopefully, this can explain it to me better, right?
Field. Something in our minds, we think that it's like playing hockey or playing basketball just on a big grass field. And in those sports, guys go full tilt a lot, like most of the game. So when two players are just standing there passing the ball back and forth, we wonder, why aren't they trying to move forward? Just go. And on the other side, we expect the defenders to be attacking the guy with the ball rather than just standing 5 feet back and letting him do what he's doing. The key difference is that football pitches are much larger than basketball courts.
Oh, they're called football pitches. That's right. I've heard that too. That's how they say it,
and hockey rinks.
Everywhere
and if you
but
tried
the
a full court press for the whole soccer game, you would be exhausted and you would probably lose. See, the pace of a soccer game is actually much closer to baseball. Most of the game is going to consist of guys just slowly passing the ball around, real peaceful. And then it's going to be all of a sudden followed by these short bursts of extremely fast action. Basketball players, it's estimated, run an average of 2.5 miles during a game. Soccer players can run 7, if not 10 miles during one game. And remember,
they literally have to just run around. So, I believe it.
3 subs games, so most of these players will be playing the whole game.
Tennis players run 3 miles? 3 miles? More than basketball players? No way. I don't believe that.
One thing Americans will appreciate is that other than halftime, there are no commercials. So it's like the anti-NFL, which is great. It also means that no matter where the ball is, both teams
Anti-NFL.
are always potentially about 30 seconds away from scoring, which creates this kind of constant tension. It also creates a scenario where you can't ever really run to the bathroom or get a drink. Soccer players seem to have a reputation for being lazy in the U.S. because they don't always pop right back up after going to ground and get right back into play. Certainly some players do embellish things,
Really?
and some go over the top, but I don't really think that...
Has the USA ever won it? Wait, so since soccer's by countries, no, we have teams by states in the U.S. though. So is there all the states in the U.S. that then play with soccer? Is there I assume there's probably a USA soccer team, but what goes to the championship? You're telling me the state of I don't know, North Dakota doesn't have a soccer team, but you're telling me North Dakota could go to the finals in soccer and win against the country of ham and cheese over there? I have no idea.
On the whole, it's quite the issue that people make it out to be.
Bro, imagine California winning the soccer finals, yo.
They get made fun of in Europe, too.
What do they call
So
the
here's
soccer
a fun
finals?
experiment to try the next time you have a few minutes. Go to a local field and then quickly jog laps around that field for 10 minutes. And then suddenly sprint down the middle of the field as fast as you can.
You're gonna be
and when
pretty
you're halfway up the
tired.
field, while you're still sprinting, have one of your friends just shove you over onto the ground. And if you can pop right back up and keep sprinting, then you can keep complaining about those guys. A lot of the time, they're just taking a little rest. And everyone will either just keep playing around them, or both teams will be a little tired, so who cares? It's not a Matthew Riley novel out there. The other reason for guys slowly passing the ball around is that one of the strategies currently employed by most teams is to maintain possession as much as possible. Obviously, this is no different in American football or why Russia is really good at hockey. The other team can't score when you have the ball. So teams will just pass the ball back and forth and even pass it back to their own goalie because it's better to go backwards with the ball
can pass the
than
ball to the
maybe
goalie?
make a risky pass and let the other team have the ball. On occasion, you'll see a team...
I know the goalie's the only one on the pitch that can use his hands, right? So could he literally throw the ball into the other goal from one side? Is that possible? Has that ever happened?
make 50 passes without the other team
that a
touching the
thing?
ball, which can take a really long time, but then they'll go down and they'll score, and that's as good as it gets. It's all about waiting for the precise moment for things to align and then all going together at the right moment. In terms of positioning and formations, you'll usually have 3 or 4 numbers, 4-4-2, or
Okay.
4-3-3, or 4-2-3-1. These numbers will always add up to 10, and then the goalie is just assumed. Different positions include the center backs,
okay.
who will just stay as
So it's the 10 people plus the goalie. So there's always 22 people on a football
defenders,
pitch.
and then the full backs are both the left and the right back, who will defend, but then they'll also usually join the attack as well. And then we have midfielders, like a center midfielder, who can go both ways, a center attacking midfielder or a center defending midfielder. And then up front, we have a left wing and a right wing, sometimes a center forward, and a striker up front.
Center forward, striker, left back, right back, center back, left back, right wing, center defensive mid. There's so many words, but I mean, I
It's
get
his job to
it.
just score
But
goals.
it's a lot to remember than
One
just
thing I'll mention
the basic 5 in basketball.
that makes it easy to kind of get into soccer is that you can legally watch some old matches on YouTube. This is unlike American sports. Why isn't there a website that I can go to watch any game, like an iTunes for sports? So I can pay $2 to watch any game in history.
Facts.
All these games are on tape somewhere. They exist. But I can't watch a game in the 1986 World Series unless an international pandemic shuts down the world and there's no sports. And they just happen to put it on NBC or something. Come on. So anyway, so keeping the ball and attacking is referred to as positive football. You're always trying to move forward. This is what most teams do. This is
Okay, but what makes the scores always be so low, bro? How in the world does no one's if you're running around for 7 miles a game, 7 miles, you're telling me you could only make one goal, and there's 10 people. You have 10. Hold up, you have 10 people on your team, 10 people, and y'all could.
what people like to watch a little bit.
Only
It's kind of
one,
exciting. It's more exciting to
2,
watch that way.
3.
But of course, there's always
4
a
goals?
yin to the yang.
Once
So if
every
the yin
15 minutes? I have to wait 15 minutes to see 1 point happen? Bro.
And is this guy named Jose Mourinho. And he basically says, I don't want the ball.
I could cook a whole meal and they only made 1 point.
I'm going to stand back with my players in front of my goal, and you're not going to score. And then every once in a while, when you're falling asleep and all your players are up in my zone, we're going to steal the ball and we're going to run down and score, which sounds a little bit risky, except that it actually does work if you do it well. And Jose's considered one of the best managers there is, and he has the trophies to back it up. He's won plenty of big tournaments with teams that I'm told if you tried to have that team keep the ball the whole time, like most coaches would, they would have been destroyed. They were too old and they just would have got worn out and wiped out. But by playing this negative defensive strategy, they were able to win. And despite this, teams that employ this strategy seem to get a bad rap for playing negative as opposed to positive football, because keeping the ball seems to be the in thing right now. So obviously there's more thought that goes into it than I've described here. Like Diego Simeone and Atletico Madrid has been using this negative strategy for years, and they've been successful with it. On the flip side, the guys who've risen to the top playing possession football are also widely sought after. Two of the most well-known coaches right now are Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola.
I've never heard any of these names before. What do these coaches even tell them? Kick the ball harder?
It's All or Nothing about Manchester City on Amazon Prime. It's about Guardiola's team a few years ago. And it's quite clear from interviews with these guys that they're quite thoughtful and well-traveled. I couldn't name a single baseball manager who can speak 3 languages. So speaking of Manchester City, they play
3
in
languages?
England.
I mean, oh yeah, how in the world do these teams communicate if they're all from different countries? Like, if you were to go to Germany, right, I assume Germany has a soccer team. And then you go to Italy, like, that's German and then Italian. And then you go to France, well, now you're speaking French. And then you go to Japan, now you're speaking Japanese. So it's like, how in the world do, teams, figure this out? I don't know.
There are 4 main
crazy.
football countries in Europe. There's England, Spain, Germany, and Italy. England has the Premier League, Spain has La Liga, Germany has the Bundesliga, and Italy has Serie A.
That's crazy. I like you just named 2 of those. But they all have their own leagues, so they don't play each other then?
So to take one country, they're all the same.
Is this like the Eastern, the Western, the Northern, and the South? Or I don't know, of Europe, I really don't get
To take one country, England, the Premier League consists of 20 teams. Every team plays every other team, once at home and once away. And these leagues don't have playoffs. You get 3 points for a win, 1 for a tie. The team with the most points at the end of the season wins. And this can and has come down to the final day of the season before. In the U.S., our leagues pretty much have the same teams every year. So if you suck, and even if you start to lose on purpose, you actually get rewarded with the top draft pick the next year. If you finish in last place in one of these leagues, they literally kick you out of the league. But they call it relegation because that's a nicer sounding word. Before we keep going, here's a quick aside on the MLS. Major League Soccer is the top league in the United States. It's different in many ways than the European leagues. There's no relegation, so the teams do stay the same from year to year, and there is a salary cap. Talent-wise, I guess globally speaking, it seems to be an okay league, but certainly not on par with any of the European leagues.
Okay, so the US is just okay. They like the Timberwolves right now. They got probably a solid team, but they not win. I'm gonna be honest.
Which is at the top. Under them is a league called the English Football League Championship. The 3 teams who finish at the bottom of the Premier League are relegated to the championship for the next season and replaced by 3 teams from the championship. The bottom 3 teams in the championship are relegated to League 1. The bottom 3 in League 1 are relegated to League 2, whose losers go to the National League, whose losers are... nobody really cares about them except their moms at this part, but you get the idea. Unless you really get into soccer, you'll never hear about anything below the Premier League again. But just so you're aware of what's happening down there. This system does a few things. First off, just because you're near the bottom of the standings, your games can still be extremely important. They still count because you're not trying to win the league anymore, but now you're trying to literally stay in the league. And the higher the league you're in, the higher the check you get from TV contracts. So it's kind of a big deal.
Right.
It also creates this kind of theoretical...
I got a buddy trying to get into, a really big soccer team. So does he understand all... Do any of y'all who really understand football understand all these different leagues and divisions, bro? It's not just like the East and Western Conference, bro. Like, that's kind of why I like basketball. It's a little more simple, it's a little more quicker, it's more action, it's more engaging. But all these different, like, wide divisions, like, oh my
Goal
goodness, the way they
meritocracy, where
figure
you
out
could
who's
start a
the
team with a
best,
bunch of guys
for
in.
you to really be the best in all these divisions, you have to be like again, Ronaldo or like Ronaldinho. Like, these are some of the best players that y'all suggest me. You know what I'm saying? What are other players that are up there, like Messi and Neymar? Like, I gotta react to more players, bro. How in the world did they get to winning? They're all the winners, right?
Anywhere in the country, get into a kind of a
All
tiny
these
league,
leagues?
and then ultimately work your way up to the Premier League. In reality, that'd be like trying to take a single A baseball team and work your way up to the majors, while the other better teams with bigger pocketbooks are trying to buy all your best players the whole way. But for the teams at the top, just winning the Premier League sounds pretty easy. You're playing maybe one game a week. But that's the catch. There's other things going on here. So there's also the Carabao Cup, which is a tournament open to the top 4 leagues in England. And then there's the FA Cup, which has been going on since like forever.
The FA Cup.
It's literally open to every like team in England. So over 700 teams entered this one tournament.
700 teams?
Like, imagine if every major and minor league baseball team had one giant tournament. So could any team win? Yes, they could. Will the small teams upset the bigger teams? At some point, maybe a few will. But is it likely that a non-Premier League team is going to win? No, probably not. So more fun to think about in theory.
So it's not possible. It's not really likely for like the state of Illinois to, you know what I'm saying, beat Italy or Barcelona in the finals.
And practically, I guess. The final tournament is the big one. Like, what if we could find the best team in Europe? And I don't mean like each country gets a team. That's the European Championship that happens every 4 years. This, I'm talking about
Every
the league club.
4 years? Every 4 years? You have to wait 4 years to know who the GOAT is? 4 years. Did I just hear that right? 4 years. It already takes an hour for them to make a point. I have to wait 4 years? Bro,
so the best teams from all over Europe, from 55 different countries, battle it out each year. This is the UEFA Champions League. So as a side note on these acronyms here, FIFA is the organization that runs like big international tournaments, like the
That's the only one I've heard. I've only heard of FIFA, and I've played FIFA.
World Cup. And they help to coordinate things across different regions. If you're an American, you probably heard of FIFA because somebody on SportsCenter mentioned somebody that was involved with some kind of corruption investigation or something. Anyway, within FIFA, the world is divided into 6 different regions. UEFA is Europe. That's where like the best players go. CONCACAF, you may have heard of because that's what the U.S. is in, the Confederation of North Central American and Caribbean Association of Football, which is short and sweet. And then there's like the rest of the world. And each one of these groups has tournaments with national teams and their league clubs.
Okay.
Like the CONCACAF Champions League and the UEFA Champions League. And these are called like the Champions League, but really it's just a tournament. So the UEFA Champions League is played in conjunction with the UEFA Europa League, which is kind of like the NCAA and NIT basketball tournaments, but with a bit of a twist. They play the qualifying rounds for the Champions League first. So if you get knocked out of the big boy tournament, but you finish high enough, you can just move down into the Europa League and try to win that. And I won't get into the qualifying, but typically...
And this kind of seems like it makes it kind of easier than for soccer players to win and get salary bonuses if they're able to just lose in one and get to the next and win that one.
You're going to have teams that you may have heard of as an American, like Manchester City, Liverpool, Manchester United, Tottenham Hotspur. From Spain, they'd probably be Barcelona and Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, I've heard of Manchester. I didn't know Manchester City and United were 2 different ones. If they are 2 different ones, it seems like it's the same. I've heard of Liverpool and Barcelona.
Real Madrid. Serie A from Italy. We'll have Juventus and Inter and Roma and Atalanta.
I've heard of Juventus.
Germany is pretty much dominated by Borussia Dortmund.
I've never heard of any of these other teams.
Bayern Munich. And then there's other popular teams like Paris Saint-Germain from France and Lyon from France and Ajax from the Netherlands. And then you throw in a few Russian teams and you're ready to party. So back to the Premier League. You remember how your team's playing that kind of standard 38-game schedule. So now, also at the same time, you're competing in the Premier League, the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, and the Champions League.
Dang.
And there's like a bunch of other small one-off games happening too. So even if you have the best team, you're still probably not going to win all these tournaments just because of the wear and tear. If you can win 3 trophies in a year, that's like special. That's called a treble. If you win 4, that's called a quadruple, but that's pretty rare. And
has anyone ever done that before?
so the biggest payday is for winning your league, although I, for some reason, find the Champions League is hard to beat for excitement. So even though you can, soccer teams tend to trade players less than they do in the U.S. Rather, teams will just buy players from their current club. So a contract is going to include your salary, obviously, but also something called a release clause, which is a fee that would go to the current club for that player. So while any team could negotiate a transfer fee with a player's current club, a release clause takes that current team just out of negotiations altogether. So a baseball player, unhappy with the situation, he could demand a trade, and they might trade him and he'd be happy. But if they refuse to trade him, then he's kind of stuck. Whereas a soccer player could just find another team willing to pay that release clause. And once a team agrees to pay the clause, then they can just negotiate directly with that player. Obviously, the better player, the higher the fee is going to be, so the current club can go out and find a reasonable replacement. Another big difference is that most sports
it's kind of weird though to put on, like it's almost like a tariff for wanting a player on a team just because he's a certain like level.
U.S. have a trade deadline, and that's followed by a few weeks afterward where players cannot move to another team. Soccer's kind of the opposite. So most of the time you cannot move to another team. There are 2 periods a year called transfer windows that you can move during. So usually before and then halfway through the season. And you could sign a new contract for another team whenever.
Interesting.
But you can't actually start
So right now it's the soccer preseason then?
Playing for them until that next transfer window. And the last thing in terms of contracts is that in the U.S., most leagues have a draft. But soccer's pretty much like the Wild West. So teams will sign players, or I should say kids, like into their youth academy very young, like 10, 8 years old. And smaller teams who...
Is everyone that's drafted on the USA teams like American?
Who find a really good player could also include something called a sell-on.
Like if you're from Italy, like do you have to be Italian? Is that like a thing? Is that a dumb question? Since like you're representing like, you know, the country you're playing for?
Clause when selling a player to a larger team that says if the team buying that player turns around and sells the player again to an even bigger club, then that original team will get a percentage of that secondary sale. All right, so if you're still here at this point, you probably want more. So what's next? There are like an unlimited number of top or best goal compilations on YouTube, which are kind of interesting in the sense that you can actually show, you know, new people to soccer, the potential that the game has. Lots of Americans' exposure to soccer is like the Women's World Cup, and obviously we have a great team there, but you never really get to see what different strategies look like. Like look up Barcelona tiki-taka videos. You won't regret that. They make grown men look like children.
Grown
As
men
I mentioned,
look like children?
The All or Nothing series on Man City is great if you have Amazon Prime.
Okay.
And obviously just watching games is good. FIFA TV has a YouTube channel that has lots of international matches. Or just look on YouTube for full football matches. You're smart, you'll find them. UEFA TV has old Champions League matches. I think you might have to register, but it's free. You'll probably want to follow BR's football channel on YouTube. They have a lot of good stuff, including this very funny series called
Chat,
The
let
Champions,
me know if y'all want me to react
which I'd
to some
probably
of
wait
these.
a little bit until you learn a little more about the top players before watching that. One place I always turn to when trying to learn a new sport is video games.
Hey.
So FIFA would probably help.
Hey, if y'all want me to play some FIFA for the channel, man, I'm down, bro. I got a bunch of friends who got FIFA. I know they're down to run
there
it.
is that it has horrible reviews. That said, if you're just trying to learn the rules, like basic tactics and which players are on which teams and who plays where,
I might have to
I would say it's been pretty helpful for me. Most of the negativity toward the game is for the online, the FIFA Ultimate Team mode, where you end up paying for players for your team. But if you just avoid that and then like stick to playing against the AI, then you should be okay. The only thing I hesitate to do is play as Barcelona because you can control Leo Messi, And like, who am I to tell God what to do? So I usually avoid that part. The alternative here, it would be a game called Pez, which I've heard.
Lionel Messi's the god of soccer? Chat, is that true? Do y'all agree with that?
Good things about, although it doesn't have licensing for many of the teams. So jerseys will look different and team names will be slightly off, which I guess might be confusing to someone new. And I think FIFA's player faces are a bit more recognizable too. News-wise, there's coverage like everywhere of soccer, although I do enjoy the site onefootball.com, which brings us to the sponsor of today's video, which is, there's no sponsor for today's video.
Oh, shoot.
I just make these videos to push the boundaries of PowerPoint and see how mad I can make myself. Anyway, hopefully that helps somewhat.
Hey man, y'all gotta let me know if y'all like this video. I definitely liked learning about, you know, all these different things about soccer, about the different leagues, kind of how they all work in, you know, all these different countries. There's definitely still a lot to learn about. So if y'all have suggestions, comment them down below for me. Hey, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hey, I hope y'all have a great day, and I'm gonna catch you on the next video. Yes, sir.